History is full of pain and fear. Many punishments were not just about killing people, they were about making them suffer, making others afraid, and showing power. Rulers and governments used these punishments to control people and keep order. Some of the worst punishments in history were designed to bring slow, terrible pain before death. Scaphism. The boats. Persian Empire. This punishment was given to traitors, murderers, and those who disrespected the king. The victim was put inside 2 wooden boats with only their arms, legs, and head sticking out. They were force-fed milk and honey, making them sick with diarrhea. The sweet smell attracted insects which crawled over their skin, biting and laying eggs. The person was left floating on water, unable to move, as worms and bugs ate them alive. Death took days, sometimes weeks. Lingchi. Death by 1,000 cuts. Used in China for traitors, government officials who betrayed the emperor, and people who killed their parents or rulers. The executioner used a sharp knife to slowly cut away small pieces of the victim's body. They started with the arms and legs, moving to the chest and face. The goal was to keep the person alive as long as possible, making them suffer with every cut. Sometimes it took hours before they finally died. Even after death, their body was not whole, meaning their soul was believed to never find peace. The breaking wheel. Medieval Europe. This punishment was used for murderers, thieves, and people who committed terrible crimes. The victim was tied to a large wooden wheel, their arms and legs spread out. The executioner used a heavy iron club to smash their bones one by one. Some were given a final merciful hit to the chest to kill them quickly. Others were left alive with broken limbs twisted through the wheel's spokes, suffering for days before they died. Their bodies were sometimes put on display as a warning to others. Flaying alive. Assyrians, medieval Europe, and Asia. This punishment was given to traitors, spies, and enemies of the state. The executioner carefully cut into the skin and peeled it away while the victim was still alive. They started at the feet or hands, slowly working up the body. The pain was beyond imagination, as the person felt every nerve being exposed. Some victims lived for hours, feeling their own flesh being removed. In some cases, their skin was hung on city walls to show what happened to those who disobeyed the rulers. Sawing in half. Medieval Europe and Asia. A horrible punishment used on blasphemers, witches, and political enemies. The victim was tied upside down so that blood would rush to their head, keeping them awake. Then a large saw was placed between their legs. The executioners sawed through the body, cutting slowly from the groin down to the head. If done carefully, the victim stayed alive until the saw reached their chest. This was meant to be as painful and terrifying as possible. Impalement. Vlad the Impaler. Ottoman Empire. Various cultures. This was used for prisoners of war, political enemies, and criminals who disobeyed the rulers. A large wooden or metal stake was pushed through the victim's body, sometimes through the bottom, sometimes through the mouth. If the stake missed the heart, the person could stay alive for hours or even days, slowly sliding down as their body weight pulled them lower. Vlad the Impaler made this punishment famous, using it to kill thousands of his enemies. People who saw forests of impaled bodies knew not to challenge him. The brazen bull, ancient Greece, created by a Greek sculptor, this punishment was for criminals, traitors, and people who spoke against the rulers. The victim was locked inside a large bronze statue shaped like a bull. A fire was lit underneath, heating the metal until it became burning hot. The person inside was slowly roasted alive. Small pipes inside the bull changed their screams into sounds like an animal roaring, turning their suffering into a terrible show. Keel hauling. Pirates and Dutch Navy. This was a punishment for sailors who disobeyed orders, stole, or committed crimes at sea. The victim was tied to a rope and thrown overboard. They were dragged under the ship, their bodies scraping against sharp barnacles covering the hull. The barnacles tore into their skin, leaving deep cuts. Some drowned before making it back to the surface. Others were pulled up, only to be sent down again. Crucifixion. Ancient Rome. One of the most famous punishments in history, used for rebels, slaves, and criminals who challenged the empire. The victim was nailed or tied to a wooden cross, arms stretched out, feet together. Hanging in this position made breathing difficult. Every time they moved, the pain worsened. It could take hours or even days to die from exhaustion, suffocation, or dehydration. Roman rulers used this punishment to show what would happen to those who stood against them. Rat torture, medieval Europe and South America, used for traitors, political prisoners, and spies. A metal cage filled with hungry rats was placed on the victim's stomach or chest. A fire was lit underneath, heating the bottom of the cage. The rats, desperate to escape the heat, had only one way out, through the person's body. They gnawed and burrowed into the flesh, causing unbearable pain.